of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com with you as always for another episode of the flagship podcast. The Standard is the Standard. Joining me as always, this new flashy feature, man. If you're watching on YouTube, like Lance and I are on the screen at the same exact time, we never leave. So Lance, don't go picking your nose or anything. But Lance,
Don't yawn. Don't yawn.
I got called out for doing that on Thursday, the preview. I mean, they're talking about something. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna fall asleep. Anyways, Lance, what's going on? How are you today?
Hey man, I'm doing great. Actually, looking at our backgrounds, listeners, give me some suggestions and us some suggestions. This stark white background is bad.
Mine's
Like
gray. Mine's like a little more gray.
like this is bad. Like I need something to put in the background. Like this is really bad. Like we're not in an insane asylum doing a show at noon. Trust me.
Right. No, he is correct. We're not in padded rooms here. But anyways, we're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. And there's a lot to talk about. And week one is completely in the books now with the Pittsburgh Steelers at training camp. Let's talk about some big events that happened this past week. Friday was the Friday Night Lights practice, which is typically the most physical practice of training camp. Backs on backers, things like that. Yesterday, they did hold practice non-padded and essentially kind of as boring as Mike Tomlin labeled it until the 2-minute drill at the end. And today is their family fest at Heinz Field, 6:30 practice. You can go if you're in the Pittsburgh area. You have to pay a small fee, but nonetheless, you can go and watch practice at Heinz Field. And then they have a day off. So what I want to talk with you about, Lance, today was some of the headlines going into camp and where they stand now. So when you think about some of the storylines that were being mulled around as the Steelers reported to camp last Thursday, to me, I'm going to ask you a few of those, and if you can think of some, you can go ahead and fire away. To me, there was none bigger than Juju Smith-Schuster filling the shoes of Antonio Brown. What was it going to look like? Is he going to be able to be a number one receiver? Now, it's only been a week. There hasn't been any games, but Lance, from what you've read so far, how do you feel like Juju has fared in terms of this storyline and where it's headed?
I mean, when you think of Juju, I mean, that's the guy that you don't worry about. I mean, Juju is a guy that's been highly productive in his first couple of seasons in the National Football League, and Juju gets it right. We always say it all the time. Juju gets it. So I'm not surprised that Juju has been outstanding in camp over the last week. His work ethic, his professional demeanor, how he just gets it, that if there was some player that the Pittsburgh Steelers need to step up to the challenge of trying to fill the shoes of Antonio Brown, and sorry,
He slipped
sorry,
it.
sorry, Mr. Third and Fifth. If there's anybody who needs to replace that you would want to replace Mr. Third and Fifth, it would be Juju. Juju's going to take on that challenge. And I think the thing we forget is Juju's still extremely young. I mean, this is a very young guy doing what he's doing in the National Football League. So that just shows you where he is in terms of the food chain, in terms of his ability as a professional athlete. Juju's a special player, and I'm not surprised by what I'm reading and what I'm hearing about his performance in camp thus far.
The biggest thing for me, and I've seen this a couple times, one was with an interview with Joshua Dobbs. I want to say the other one might have been with, I'm not sure if it was a receiver or a quarterback, but essentially what they said was, and this is scary territory to me, they say if Juju's one-on-one, we expect him to win the ball. They're going to throw it to him when he's just single coverage. That's Antonio Brown. I'm sorry. I know I've Mr. Third and Fifth, but we're just to shorten things up here. That's what they said about number 84 when he was in Pittsburgh. If he's single covered, we're throwing in the ball because we know he's going to win the battle. That's what they're already saying. And Juju Smith-Schuster has already in camp, he's gone against Joe Haden, and Joe Haden is certainly not a slouch. I will put it that way. Steven Nelson has had a good camp so far, and they've been exploiting these matchups one-on-one. I think that's a really good sign for the Steelers. The question is, Lance, and I'll ask you this as a defensive guy, how often do you think he's going to see one-on-one coverage?
I don't think he's going to see it a lot. Well, actually, I'll take that back. I think Juju's going to see one-on-one coverage early. You know, the National Football League is a prove it to me league. It's what's the show me state, Missouri?
Yes.
It's the show me state. It's a show me league. They are going to make Juju prove that he has to be double covered. Now, it may only be for a few snaps, but they're going to make him, they're going to make him earn what Mr. Third and Fifth earned in getting designated double coverage, safety on top, brackets, they're going to make him earn that. And if he does, then he's going to get it consistently. So that means that other players are going to have to step up, namely Washington, namely Moncrief, possibly the rookie Deontay Johnson. But I think initially in the season, Juju will not get double covered. And I think in that first game, I think what you're going to see in classic Patriot style is they're not going to cover Juju with Stephon Gilmore. They're going to put the number 2 corner on Juju, see how he holds up, and they're going to put Stephon Gilmore probably on James Washington, whoever they designate as the number 2. But initially, I think the league is going to make Juju earn it.
Well, and the Patriots will also shade help towards that number 2 cornerback. So they'll essentially bracket him on one side and force the other to beat Stephon Gilmore one-on-one. That's what they always did with Mr. Third and Fifth, and sometimes Mr. Third and Fifth won, but Mr. Third and Fifth also didn't play very often against the Patriots. So for a myriad of reasons, mostly injury. Now, Spiral Bomber in our live chat said he saw the video clip of Juju. This was yesterday's practice. His dog Bougie, who is probably more popular than most of the players on the team. He showed up at training camp, and Juju was running around the field with him. And Spiral Bomber says he looked like he got bigger. He did look like Juju looks like he's bulked up a little bit. Like he's looking thick. Looks good. He looks in great shape. I think he's ready to go.
I mean, that's that Polynesian background of Juju's. I mean, Samoans and Tongans, Polynesian cats are huge. Yeah. I mean, Troy Polamalu being that small, that's one of the most incredible things about Troy Polamalu being South Pacific Islander. Like Troy is tiny. Like Troy is like absolutely tiny. And that's probably the most incredible thing about Troy being a Hall of Famer is coming from that background and actually being that small. I've had numerous friends from the Pacific Islands, and those cats are big. Those cats are big, physical, and agile, and are incredible athletes.
Now you're out on the West Coast, and I want to take a quick sidebar here, and I don't want to take up too much time talking about Mr. Third and Fifth, but what are your thoughts on you're around Raider fans a lot. They can't be happy that Mr. Third and Fifth he's basically MIA going to see a foot specialist. I mean, I've been following this story. I haven't been writing about it, but I have been following it. It just seems like he's picking up where he left off in Pittsburgh. Am I right?
His feet need more than a foot specialist. I mean, I don't know if you guys are aware. I had bunion surgery on my foot, and bunion surgery is serious. Your feet are nothing to play with. He needs holy water for those feet. I saw the picture of his feet. He needs holy water to be sprinkled on those feet. Those feet look bad. And my barbers in my barber shop where I go to, they already feel it. Like they're already shaking their heads that the guy is drama and that he's a diva and a prima donna. They were not impressed by the hot air balloon display, and they have not been happy about his absence in camp.
Well, as they shouldn't be. It's crazy. And you hear John Gruden talking. He's just like, we're ready to get the party started. I'm thinking, man, you've been in camp for a week and you don't know where. Oh, man. Hey, there's certain times where, and I felt this way for a while since the trade was made, where you're kind of like, man, when Mike Tomlin called it a cleansing, it was 100% truth. Le'Veon Bell's up there going off on Instagram, apologizing to fantasy football owners. Mr. Third and Fifth is MIA because he's got some foot problem and the head coach doesn't know what's going on. Bye-bye. So I'm gonna
yeah. Mr. Buttneck can get robbed. I mean, that guy is gone too. And I don't want to get too graphic, but you guys know what a cleansing is called. For all you people that are healthy, you eat right. You know what he called those guys. The lack of those guys, essentially a colonic. I mean, he called him a colonic.
Yeah.
He called them an enema, like like the enema duo, like Mr. and Mrs. Enema. I mean, look, when you get called a cleansing, when you refer to your removal as a cleansing, come on, dude, like it ain't the greatest compliment. It's not a compliment, in fact, at all.
Right. You're exactly right. So let's get back to the Steelers talk, though. Here's what we're going to talk about next. And the storyline I thought might have been the biggest storyline outside of Juju Smith-Schuster was first-round pick Devin Bush. The guy that they traded up 10 spots to get 10th overall. What is it? What are the expectations for him? That was the question going into camp. I feel like I have a pretty solid answer on this, but Lance, from what you've read and what you've seen online, what are your thoughts on Devin Bush heading into this first preseason game this upcoming Friday against the Bucs in Heinz Field?
Well, I got in trouble because I told you guys to not believe anything that you read or what you hear from training camp.
Don't
And I
tell me what to think, Lance. Don't tell me what to think.
and I tried to tell people yesterday on Yeah, I Said It, the first live broadcast of Yeah, I Said It, that look, I mean, in America, we're used to being told what to think. So why should you feel upset or any different? I'm just one of the many people that are telling you what to think. I mean, that's what this is about. That's why we have podcasts. That's why we have articles. Everybody tells you what to think. So don't feel bad about me. I'm just another person in that long line of people that are telling you what to think. Hey, so just listen to me. But what I think is consistent in everything that's being written about Bush is his physicality and his athleticism and his speed. And the one thing that keeps showing up, you've talked about it, Jeff, CC, Chris Carter's talked about it. I mean, everybody's talked about it, how he seems to be a staple in dime and in nickel in sub package football. And I did a show, yeah, I said it a while ago, about how Vince Williams is not going to be playing a lot of snaps this year because of the way offensive football is played and because of the way he struggles in coverage. If you want to see those struggles, just turn on the Carolina Panther game when McCaffrey is tearing him up. Now, McCaffrey, I hate to compliment Stanford guys. Go Cal, go Oski, and big up to Tony Gonzalez for his induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Cal football, baby, you know what it is. Go, you know it. Tell the whole darn world this is Cal territory. Big up. But when you saw McCaffrey tear up Vince Williams, I mean, right there in and of itself, it just told you need more speed and more versatility in the interior of your defense. So the reports and the links of Bush and dime and a nickel, I am not surprised. And that is what the doctor ordered in terms of team speed and versatility that this defense needs.
Well, the one thing that, and I say this, I write the training camp recaps for the website, and I swear every single practice, I have taken one or two tweets from media that are there on site and put them in there and said, here we go again. And it's not a negative, it's a positive, that Bush is always around the football and coverage. To me, that's where you're going to see the biggest difference between last year and this year is that, number one, Devin Bush is not going to, he's going to be on the field from day one. I truly believe that. I've said it from the start. I believe it even more now than what I'm reading in training camp. Number two, the guy in coverage is so athletic. You see another pass breakup, interception by Bush. Every single practice, he's getting his hands on the football. He's that dynamic in terms of his athleticism, change of direction. And, you might not see the best run stopper in the game, but I think he'll get better in that regard. But my goodness, just his coverage abilities. They're putting him on receivers, and he's holding his own. He had I'm going to say it was a pass towards, I'm thinking Ryan Switzer. He picks it off. He's tipping the ball in the air. Other guys are picking it off. Just super dynamic so far. Knock on wood. I know that they haven't played against anyone else, and I know that it's just practice and whatever else you want to say. He is living up to the billing in my opinion. He has a lot to prove still, but from what I expected, hey, week one, I'm hearing all this good stuff. That's good. I'm happy. So far. We'll put it that way. So I'm excited for Devin Bush this Friday, no doubt. Another storyline I want to get into with you is the backup quarterback situation. Joshua Dobbs, Mason Rudolph, or if you want to throw in Dash, a.k.a. Devlin Hodges. Neither of these guys has really impressed much. They said, from what I've read and spoken with Chris Carter, this is Chris Carter from DKPittsburghSports.com, and I spoke with him on the phone the other day. He said that Dobbs does not look good, that he's throwing way too many interceptions, he's scrambling too early, he's holding on the ball too long. But he said that Rudolph hasn't looked too much better, that neither of these guys, I guess, are really clinging on to their job or the opportunity, we'll put it that way. Lance, your thoughts on the backup quarterback role?
If your guy, Mason Rudolph, doesn't step up and beat out Dobbs to get that number 2 position, then the draft capital and the investment that they made to move up to get him looks stupid. It could be a mistake. I mean, Josh Dobbs is an average player. It's a below average player. He was drafted. What was he drafted around? Sixth round, somewhere around there.
Dobbs was fourth, I believe.
Fourth round.
Fourth or fifth.
He's not a good player, and that's an indictment on him. Like when you come into the league, we always talk about the 3 Ps, right? Pay, production, pedigree, in terms of how I think roster decisions and sometimes how depth chart decisions are made. When you invest the draft capital that they did for Rudolph and he can't beat out a guy that was drafted lower than him, then that's an indictment on his ability as a football player. Given the draft capital that they invested to get him, they want to give him every opportunity to succeed and be that number 2 guy. And if he cannot clearly beat out Dobbs, that's a problem. I mean, he's an expensive draft pick in regards to what they gave up to get him. He has to play better. And so hopefully it trends more positively, but they can't be happy with his performance in camp thus far.
Well, I guarantee folks that want to know what is the inside scoop here on both these quarterbacks. I mean, yeah, they're going to look at these practices and what they do in practice. This, in my opinion, the backup quarterback job is going to come down to preseason games, period. How do they play when they're in a stadium, as Mike Tomlin says? And so if on Friday night, I guarantee you Joshua Dobbs gets the football to start the game because he was number 2 last year, because he's played an extra year. And if he plays well and Rudolph doesn't, then he has the inside edge. I don't think they have some predestined, Mason Rudolph's the guy unless Joshua Dobbs changes their mind. I literally think it's going to be let's see what they have and we'll find out. So let's go to the last headline, the last storyline here before we go over to your topic that you want to talk about. That's the worldwide leader in sports entertainment, ESPN.
Haters.
We'll get there. Let's talk about we've kind of talked about one rookie, but I want to get your opinion on the free agent acquisitions. The players that have experience that are expected to be an impact player was 3 players, and mainly that's Mark Barron, that's Steven Nelson, and that's Dante Moncrief. What are your takes on them so far throughout 1 week of camp?
Please do not look up Moncrief's finger. That was nasty.
I didn't see that. No.
Oh, my goodness. They showed his finger pop out. Oh, man, it was nasty. It was one of those, they went behind the bleachers and popped that finger back in because that guy was back in practice. It was nasty. I mean, it was going left. It was really nasty. Don't look up that picture. From everything I've read, he's done well. But I think I'm happy to hear that Nelson is playing really good. And you saw a couple of clips on the internet, Barron's ability to get to the boundary and lay some wood. That's what they need. They need more speed on this defense. They need more to be able to get more guys around a football to generate more turnovers. It looks like from everything we're hearing, and it's a lot because there's a lot of stuff out there, that both Nelson and Barron are showing up in a big way.
Let's talk about that team speed on defense. With the moves that they make, let's assume that what your prediction comes to fruition. That's Vince Williams is not going to be playing as much as everyone thinks. So let's say it's Bush and Barron in the middle, and we have Nelson and Haden on the outside, Davis and Edmonds in the back end. We all know the front, in the outside pass rushers. Are you happy with the team speed on defense?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you put 2 fast guys in the interior, that elevates your team speed. That elevates your ability to go side to side from one hash to the boundary, one hash to the other boundary. I think when you can add that dynamic ability and speed in your interior, I mean, it just makes you a lot faster across the board. And I think the so-called worldwide leader put an article out there about the team speed. I think if you put Bush and you put Barron on the field, I think the slowest guy on that defense ran, maybe like a 4.9, and that would be Hargrave. So that's impressive.
And he's a nose tackle.
And he's a nose tackle. Let me ask you something, Jeff. I mean, on Dave did an outstanding inaugural episode on the Stat Geek, and he talked about some of the cap space that was freed up.
Mm-hmm.
I think that money has to go towards an extension of Hargrave, not Joe Haden. I think you put an investment in the younger player. not the older guy. Corner, I think, is a more valued position, but I think you have to fortify your front and you've got to keep Hargrave inside because that skill set is rare. Having the inside guy that can plug, that can pass rush, and that can play in sub packages. I think the only knock against Hargrave is the fact that his snap count has to go up, right? He has to play more snaps and more sub package football. But it's hard on this front when you have Hayward and Tuitt. But I think they should make the investment in Hargrave, not Joe Haden.
If it were up to me, and if I'm the Steelers, and I'm thinking about this purely as an owner, general manager that's signing checks, giving out contracts, I'm not like Hargrave, Sean Davis, I'm not dealing with you all at all until after the season because I don't have to. You're still under your rookie deal. And I'm going to have a period of time after the season to give you a contract that's based on your production from this past season. So Javon Hargrave had 6.5 sacks in 2018. That's phenomenal. For a part-time player, that's outstanding. Do it again, we'll pay you. At the same time, same with Sean Davis. You had up and downs in your career so far. You've played a lot of different positions. Not saying you're not valuable. If you go and show out, I'll pay you. Ask all these guys, Ramon Foster, all these guys that have stayed when it looks like their contracts are going to expire and they're going to hit free agency. I'm not worried about them. Joe Hayden's a little bit different because if you feel, and I would have to rely on my coaching staff here. If you feel that he still has 3 good seasons left in him, and he's 30. If you had three solid years left, I'd be willing to make a deal with him now because it can save you money later. That's the biggest thing. Joe Hayden's due $11 million this year towards the salary cap. So if I give him a new contract before the start of the season, and I can take some of that $11 million and move it into the signing bonus area, decrease some of those early years like the Steelers always do, backload a lot of his contract, then I have no problem. It's going to give me more money to spend on Hargrave and Davis after the season. So for me, if I'm looking at it as from not a fan perspective, general manager, owner of the team, that's how I'm approaching it.
I think that's solid. I mean, that approach is definitely one I think they'll look at. I think when you speak of Hayden and getting that extension is, and I don't know this off the top of my head, I'm sure the Oracle Dave Schofield knows. How good are corners when they're 32, 33? Like, how good are corners post 30? Yeah. Like, how well do they hold up? Not from an injury perspective.
Uh-oh. Got a little buffering going on with Lance here. He's been so good. For those that follow the show, it had been so good for so long. He changed his provider. He was one of those guys that he's calling. He's on the phone. I hope y'all realize that. Some of the connectivity issues that we've had with like Brian Anthony Davis and Lance, it's not that they're not trying, but sometimes you know what it's like when the internet kicks up and goes haywire. So hopefully we'll get Lance back up. Is he back? You there?
I'm back. Presto.
He's back.
Xfinity, baby. Xfinity, baby. Xfinity.
I don't know if that's something you should be like touting right now.
it's back. Look, when I was on AT&T, I would have stayed dark for the remainder of the show. That's true.
Okay, so you were saying about like guys like Sean Davis, Hargrave, and Haden having or success between the ages of like 30, 33 for cornerbacks. It would be a good thing to look up. It would be an interesting discussion.
I want to see where the drop-off is. I mean, I'm not sure with Darrelle Revis. I know Darrelle Revis was an awesome player for a particular amount of time. Then there was a drop-off. Ty Law, congratulations to Ty Law on his induction in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Big up to him. Aliquippa, PA. I have relatives from out in that area, from Beaver Falls, Rochester, Aliquippa, so big up to that community. He was absolutely right. If you saw any of his speech, Ty Law's speech, that the level of competitiveness out there in Rochester, in Beaver Falls, in Aliquippa, the number of Hall of Famers that they've had inducted in that small area outside of Pittsburgh is outstanding. I mean, you're talking about Ditka, you're talking about Ty Law, you're talking about Tony Dorsett. I mean, they've had phenomenal players. Even his uncle, Darrelle Revis, comes from Aliquippa. Sean Rogers. I mean, they've had tremendous talent come out of the air, given how small it is. But it's definitely something that I'll throw a bug into Dave's ear to see, if he wants to, join me in that research. Take a look at really good corners and see how they perform after 30, because that has to come in.
Okay, here's a good DZ in our live chat said, "Do you think that Sherman is still elite? He's 31 years old."
Richard Sherman?
Yes.
Absolutely not.
So that would be, was he elite 2 years ago?
Was he still on the Seahawks? He was elite
Yes.
while he
Yeah.
was on the Seahawks, yes. I don't think he's been an elite player since then, but I think he got.
Well, he also had an injury. I think he tore his Achilles or an ACL
Yeah,
or
but
something like
he
that.
had some bad injuries there, and
Yeah.
that has to factor in. Like, how's he going to hold up physically? But I think when he was healthy and when he was with Seattle, he was a dominant player for sure. But I don't think he's approached what he was in Seattle, in San Francisco.
I think it also depends on, to me, what do you want to do with the cornerback? Darrelle Revis was Revis Island for a reason. He was unmatched when it came to one-on-one. Put me out on an island and I got it on lockdown. But at the same time, it's not every cornerback's asked to do that. I don't see Joe Haden being asked to do that too many times. So if he fits your system and you think even if he gets a hair slower but still has the veteran presence to go out and play in your system, then maybe you offer him a two. I wouldn't do an extension. I'd try to get him a new deal altogether.
Hashtag draft a corner.
They did. They did. Justin Lane, haven't heard much from him from camp, just to chime in there, but we'll see. We'll see. It's interesting. These are some storylines we're going to have to keep an eye on. I'm going to go out on a limb here, Nostradamus style, and say that Joe Haden will get an extension before the season starts.
No, it's not Nostradamus. It's Jeff Stradamus.
That sounds so stupid.
It's Jeff Stradamus.
So, but I'm gonna say, you can disagree. I'm gonna say that he is gonna get a new contract before the start of the regular season.
I don't disagree, and it's largely because what he's owed. And if they can take the money that he's owed, the $11 million, roll that into a signing bonus and spread that out and give themselves some cap relief, I think they do that to give them some money to then try to go after, a player to fill a hole, maybe a tight end, maybe an additional, maybe a tight end specifically, maybe an additional depth on the defensive line. I think where they can use that cap space to shore up their roster in some certain areas, definitely at the tight end position.
Well, let's look at the numbers. So they saved about 3.9. We'll round up to 4 from Tuitt's restructure. If they give Haden a new deal, and let's say that frees up 6 of his 11 that he's supposed to get this year, so it takes his 11 million hit down to 5. You just freed up $10 million of cap space that if you need to go out, like you said, and make a move, make a trade, do whatever you have to do, because people forget if you make a trade for a player, you still have to pay that player's salary for that season. And so it's not like, that's when everyone used to want Patrick Peterson. Let's trade Mr. 3rd and 5th for Patrick Peterson. Well, Patrick Peterson was owed a lot of money, and you'd have the dead cap hit from Mr. 3rd and 5th still on your books. You can't afford that. So that just isn't the way it works. But I do want to say something here in our live chat. Matt Thomas says that Tunch Oakton, and I wrote this in an article the other day, is about Terrell Austin, the secondary coach that's new with the team. He's been mandating cornerbacks and safeties to work on the jugs machine before or after practice. And he asked, do you think it will relate to turnovers? My first response when I saw this was, are you serious? Like, are you serious?
I'm thinking the same thing.
This is what's now happening? What is going on?
What's even only thing that's more asinine than that was when Ben Roethlisberger came out and said he was going to start working out in the off season in year 14. I mean, come on, man, that's like the dumbest shit I've heard. Like, really, like these dudes that get no picks. Come on, man. On the strength that Ike Taylor played for the Steelers, they should have been catching balls before and after practice. I mean, Ike had the worst. Like that alone should have caused them to do that. Like that's disturbing. That takes my optimism. It just strips it away. It just makes me go, what the HE double hockey sticks have they been thinking?
Well, it is from a coaching standpoint, right? Because for me, like everyone's like, "Oh man, Austin's making those cornerbacks and safeties hit the jugs." I'm like, "Wait a second, time out. You're telling me Carnell Lake, Bradley last season, you all haven't had your guys working on catching the football? My gosh, you got to practice."
Jeff, they act like that was a eureka moment. Like, eureka! They're catching balls on the jugs machine after practice. Like eureka! Like that's not eureka. Like discovering electricity is eureka. Right? That's not that's on the bottom of the totem pole of great thoughts. like, oh, wide receivers and corners should catch extra balls on the jug machine. Ding! Come on, man. Come on.
Ben Roethlisberger saying, "Holy cow, eating 300 grams of carbohydrates a day and not doing anything other than golf isn't gonna make me more athletic and mobile in the pocket." Wow! Mind
Eureka!
blown.
Like, Eureka! Oh, I should eat donuts and bread. Like, come on, man. Like, some of this stuff is just like, you just can't believe it. Like, I just can't believe that it took like 5 coaches and a head coach not paying attention to realize that corners need to catch the ball in the jugs machine.
Well,
Like,
in our live chat, Justin Conway says the defensive backs just discovered the jugs machine, and he wrote LOL. That's like, I mean, you ever think that they saw receivers like, man, what's that machine over there? It looks pretty cool. Look at it. It's like spitting footballs out at them, and they're catching them. Should we do that? Should we do that? No. Coach didn't tell us we need to do that.
No. Catching balls won't help me catch balls. Oh, no. It just won't do it.
But it just goes to show you that sometimes we take for granted that in the National Football League, every single coach is a really good coach. It's not always the case. Not always the case, because I've always said this. You look at a guy like Carnell Lake, and I could go to much greater extents in other sports. Just because you were awesome and you were great doesn't mean you can coach. I'll give you the perfect example in hockey. Wayne Gretzky as a coach. They called him the Great One. Was he a good coach? Not really, because it just came naturally to him.
I'll give you a better example, even more closer to home. Joey Porter.
Yeah.
Great player, average coach.
Yeah. That is the absolute truth. I'm starting to see now that I think that Bud Dupree was the reason why Joey Porter got fired.
I mean, it's just...
Hey, man, you got to get those arms down and buzz it, but I can't do it, Coach. I just can't do it.
The jugs machine. These guys are... Come on, man. You think that team up north, that the DBs for that team up north have been on a jugs machine for a few years? You think?
Yeah. Okay. Let's shift gears now. You want to talk about your show, which debuted live on YouTube. We finally got Lance on YouTube. People have been saying, I'm not going to subscribe until Lance Williams is on YouTube. Well, yesterday he delivered, and today you all delivered. We've had probably the biggest subscription day. I'm not saying it's just because of you, Lance. I don't want your ego to get bigger than the little screen that you have there in front of you.
It's already large.
We went from just shy of 3,000 to almost 3,100 in the course of probably a week. So it was a big subscription day for us. We want to thank all of you that subscribed. We appreciate that. But Lance, good job on the show yesterday. You wanted to talk about the topic with me. Go ahead and deliver the goods.
We talked about yesterday on the show that ESPN hates the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I should have said ESPN hates the Pittsburgh Steelers and they love the Cleveland Browns. And some of the roster rankings that they gave the Pittsburgh Steelers, I thought were out of bounds. Let me ask you one about the first one, Jeff. And the quarterback position. They put the Steelers roster at the quarterback position at 9. And largely, they had Baker Mayfield rated as the number 10 quarterback, and they had Ben Roethlisberger rated as the number 9 quarterback. Above Roethlisberger, they had Jared Goff. Who else did they have that was a surprising guy? They had Jared Goff was one of the guys I know for sure.
I bet Matt Ryan was up there.
I'm not sure. I don't think so. But just speak to 9. Baker Mayfield is 10.
I'm going to go. Okay, so for me, the sample size of Baker Mayfield is way too small before anyone decides that they're going to put him near the realm of Ben Roethlisberger. And I'm going to go to what you said a few shows ago. It might have been last week. If Baker Mayfield was 10, he would have completed that pass against the Ravens. That would have
exactly
in the first down. It would have put him in field goal range. They would have won that football game. Instead, what does he do? He throws a game-clinching interception after that incomplete pass. Look, Baker Mayfield can be a special quarterback. I know he has a skill set that's unique, but at the same time, again, I'm not taking away from what he is, his potential. I just think that ranking him that high should not be based on potential. It should be based on what you've actually done on the football field. And what he's done on the football field is not much at all.
Exactly. Let me give you the top 10 list. They had Baker at 10, Ben at 9, Goff at 8, Russell Wilson at 7, Andrew Luck at 6. Then they had Rivers, Rodgers, Brady, Mahomes, and Breeze. That's how it was rated out. Now, I slotted Ben after Phillip Rivers at 6. And so,
well, I mean, what about Phillip Rivers makes him better than Ben Roethlisberger?
Well, the thing that makes Ben better than Phillip Rivers is the playoff success. Right. I think they are comparable. I mean, Rivers puts up astronomical numbers typically. I mean,
so
Phillip Rivers, I think, is also a Hall of Fame quarterback, especially if Warren Moon and some other guys are in the Hall of Fame without winning rings. I think Phillip Rivers is one of those guys. I think you could flip a coin and argue tomato, either, which one you like better. But I know for sure Ben is better than Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson, Jared Goff, and Baker Mayfield.
I guess I look at it, and are you looking at the article that was tiers, that's the tiered quarterbacks, or is this a different article?
This was a different article.
Okay, so I liked it. There was one where Ben Roethlisberger was at the very end of the tier 1 out of tier 3. There's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. ESPN did this. Actually, it was The Athletic. I'm sorry. Mike Sando used to write for ESPN, now writes for The Athletic. He did this article in the past. Now it's on The Athletic. And he had Ben Roethlisberger at the tail end of tier 1. And his description and say, okay, well, how do you decipher a tier 1 quarterback? It's with the game on the line. You're supremely confident they're going to get the job done. And so when I think about that, I ask myself, are we supremely confident that Ben Roethlisberger is still going to get the job done with the game on the line? That's a question, Lance.
You see my pause and my hesitation.
You just answered the question.
I just answered the question. You know what came up in my mind, honestly, was that pick in Denver.
Oh, gosh.
Was that interception in Denver is... I'm not sure. I'll be honest. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's going to take care of the football in big spots. I'm not completely certain.
It's good. Yeah, then these are questions. These are tough questions that Steeler fans have to, black and gold glasses on. Everyone says, oh, yeah, Ben's the man in that situation. Well, not really in the past few years he hasn't been. I do think that last year they had some magic. The other day I was flipping through the channels, and I saw the FS1 was airing the 30-minute special. You know how they do those 30-minute blocks for every team where it's kind of like a review of last season and a preview of this season. And I got to see the Steelers episode, and I was watching the Oakland game, and I completely forgot about the hook and ladder.
Yes.
Against the Raiders, because everyone remembers how Boswell slips on the kick, but I'm like, holy crap, that play worked. They did have some late game success. And you look at the Denver game where they drove down the field and got in that position, and it was just boneheaded mistakes. And this goes back to a text you sent me when you were watching film, and that was last year's team was pretty good. They just made some really stupid mistakes at the stupid times.
Yeah, they played some dumb football last year.
So I think Ben still has it. And I'm a big Ben fan. I will say that. I'm not going to deny that. I still think he has it. I'm still confident that if he gets the ball in his hands, that he's gonna make the plays. Is he gonna make mistakes? Yeah, absolutely. But then again, Tom Brady made a mistake last year at Heinz Field, so no one's perfect. But
yeah, no one's perfect. And Tom Brady, ironically, threw an interception in the end zone in the AFC Championship against Kansas City. So these guys do make mistakes. And also, Big Ben makes the throw in Denver years ago in the playoffs to Jericho Cotchery to send the game into overtime through a dime on a post route to Cotchery, which was just an absolute missile, fitted in a small window and gets it done. So, Ben has always been this frustrating guy for me. Given stuff that he says, balance that with his performance on the field, some of the off-field chicanery and shenanigans that Ben has been saddled with or dealt with or has done. But, I still feel confident going into a game with Ben Roethlisberger, number 7 under center. I feel much more confident in Ben than I think Cleveland Browns fans should believe in Mr. Mustache Baker Mayfield. That's for sure.
Mr. Mustache. Did you see the video of him shotgunning a beer at the Indians game?
Yeah.
What a clown. Oh, man.
Yeah, that
Can't
guy.
wait.
Yeah, like that guy's a me guy. Like he's a me guy. It drips. It drips off Baker. Baker likes to be the subject in the conversation, so to speak.
The sad thing for me is that the Steelers aren't going to play the Browns till after the halfway point, and I would have loved to have them play them like the first quarter, like week 4, week 5, to really shut them up. But I have a feeling they'll already be shut up by the time the Steelers playing for the first time on Thursday Night Football. So there you go. So yeah, ESPN. The biggest thing for me is that I can't stand how everything is based around the same teams over and over again. You know, you turn it on, you're inundated with Ezekiel Elliott and Jerry Jones, and you're inundated with the Patriots and Tom Brady. You're inundated with Aaron Rodgers. It's everybody except for the Steelers. And that's always been one of the cruxes for why way back in 2015 or 2014 when we started this show, I wanted to do a podcast for fans that don't want to hear about that other crap and want to just hear about the Steelers. And so that's why we do this. That's why now, this upcoming week with a game, we'll be doing post game. We're going to give you 7 shows this week. That's a lot of content. If you're a Steelers fan, you love hearing nothing but Steelers, this is the place to be. That's for sure.
You know what ESPN is? ESPN is the guy that gets infatuated with the new girl. That's who he is. You know, ESPN is the one that gets the new girlfriend, gets infatuated, is all excited, tells all his friends, da da da, showers gifts on her. All you hear is him talk about her. You don't see him. He disappears for a while, blah blah blah. Then he shows up 6 weeks later after he broke up with her, and then he picks a new girl. The Browns are the new girl for the National League football coverage for ESPN. Let me give you some of the other rankings. So they had the Browns. So at the quarterback position, they had the Browns or the Steelers at 9, the Browns at 13. At the running back position, they had the Steelers at 14, the Browns at 2. At the wide receiver position, they had the Steelers at 17, the Browns at 5. At the tight end position, they had the Steelers at 20 and the Browns at 6. And at the offensive line, they had the Steelers at 4 and the Browns at 21. Of those rankings, which one stands out to you as the one that's the most erroneous?
You rattled them off really quick.
Let me give it to you again. Quarterback 9-13, running back 14-2, wide receiver 17 to the Browns 5, and tight end 20 to the Browns 6. Offensive line, the Steelers 4, ranking to the Browns 21st.
I'd say wide receiver because I think Juju's that good. Yeah, they lost Mr. Third and Fifth, but at the same time, I think Juju's stepping into his own. I think Moncrief's going to help. You hope that James Washington can step up, Deontay Johnson, things like that. It's going to be interesting to see. That's what I'd go wide receiver. Wide receiver, yeah.
To me, I think I pointed out, I thought it was at the tight end position. Like, I know that the depth behind Vance McDonald is spotty at best, but I didn't think that the difference between Vance and Njoku warranted a gap of 14 positions in terms of ranking when you look at the Browns compared to the Steelers. I think Vance is the best tight end in the division. I think he's better than Njoku. The only issue with Vance is injuries and staying healthy. So I thought that discrepancy was big. But the thing that stands out in the rankings when in comparison of the Steelers and the Browns is at O-line, the Steelers are at 4, the Browns are at 21. And at interior defensive line, the Steelers are at 5 and the Browns are at 19. That is why, in my opinion, the Steelers should be the favorites to win the AFC North, and why ESPN is ultimately haters. Because for all of the experts that they have on their network, football guys that play, coaches, GM guys, they know that the game is won in the trenches. And when you have that level of difference, 4-21 on O-line and 5-19, that's where the game is won. You watch those games between the Steelers and the Browns last year, Steelers beat up the Browns up front on both sides of the ball.
I agree 100%. Baker Mayfield can't complete passes if he's on his back. So that's to me that you talked about the analogy of ESPN and the girl. They're also only excited about the skill position players. I mean, rarely, unless there's an injury, are they talking about, you know, the battle of the trenches, so to speak, offensive, defensive lines. And if they did, the Steelers should get a lot more praise. I think they have the best 3-4 defensive front in football, and I think they have one of the best offensive lines in football. So, is there anything else you want to complain about ESPN? Are we good? You want to go to questions now?
Let's go to questions. ESPN sucks. That's pretty much what I just want to say.
Let me rephrase that. And that all mainstream media sucks. Like I can't think of. I don't like the NFL Network either that much. FS1, nope. For me, I don't watch too much of that stuff anymore. To put it bluntly. Okay, so Jeremiah wants to know: do you think that the Steelers can? The operative word is can, not will. Can they win a Super Bowl this year?
Absolutely. I mean, I think they can. Will is a different story, but yes, I think they're talented enough on both sides of the ball to win a Super Bowl. I do.
I agree. I think that they are capable of winning a Super Bowl this year. Like you said, you're not predicting that they will, but you're saying that they are capable. I think they definitely are capable.
You know why, Jeff? Because quote, Ben is motivated.
He's enjoying football again.
He's enjoying football again. Eureka.
And he should be happy because he has his team back. Who's going to challenge him now?
No one.
Exactly. They're all little minions, as I call them. The little minions will line up.
Binions.
That's good.
they're little binions.
That could be a T-shirt. You get a picture of like Gru with the number 7 jersey and the binions.
And the binions. hey! If I see that T-shirt out there, you took it from us. Like this is, and you better give us some shirts or somehow incorporate us into that. Yes, great. That's great, Jeff. Binions,
the Gru with the number 7 jersey on, and then the Binions. We'll have number 19. We'll have number 11. We'll have all these numbers.
Colbert, Tomlin.
One of them will have a headset on. That'll be tough.
Yeah, yes. Obviously, I'm a Binion.
All right, so let's go to Snowman. He's put $5 in the tip jar via the Super Chat, which, by the way, I'll go ahead and mention this. The Super Chat feature is a way that you can give some money to the program. And where you see where it says chat publicly at BTSC Steelers Radio, to the right, there's a small $sign. You click that $sign, you can donate any amount of money to the show. We appreciate anything that you're willing to give. But on top of that, understand that it will highlight your question and we will guarantee to answer it. So a lot of people have asked questions. We can't get to all of them, but we will get to yours if you use that feature. You don't have to use it, but you can. And his question is, will the Steelers go after a tight end before the start of the regular season, Lance?
I believe so. I think it's imperative that they do. I don't think anybody in Steeler Nation is comfortable with Xavier Grimble being the backup tight end. I think it's imperative that they do it because, when you look at their offense, if you look at the snap counts from a formation perspective, they run a lot of 2 tight end stuff. I mean, I think that's their second most popular formation behind 11 personnel, which is 3 wide receivers, 1 running back, or 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end. But you need to be able to have 2 tight end sets. You need to be able to make defenses play heavy, and you attack them in the passing game by being able to get your tight ends matched up one-on-one against linebackers. That's a popular way that teams are attacking guys offensively, and the Steelers need that secondary tight end threat. I mean, nobody really liked that guy that went to the Lions. I mean, he's a solid player. But they need a secondary tight end guy.
I agree. And Vance McDonald had a pretty decent year last year in terms of health, but his MO up until last season was that he is an injury-prone player, and that's scary. That is really scary because I think he can be a mismatch nightmare. I think he's going to be a focal point of this offense, especially the aerial attack. You take him out, totally changes the complexity of the Steelers offense moving forward. So let's go to Evgeny Crosby. It's a unique name. He said, do you think the key to this season is none other than Devin Bush?
No, I don't. Not at all. But I want to give that guy props for having the best name ever.
Evgeny Crosby.
Yeah, that's the best name ever. I mean, that name is so versatile. Like that could be a band. That could just be like that could be a bad name. That could just be a kick-ass name. I mean, that's the best name ever. Big up to you for having the most versatile, awesome name ever. But no, the season does not rest on Devin Bush. The season rests on the guy we just talked about, number 7.
Yep.
Period. That's it. It's the Binions. It's Ben and the Binions. It rests on number 7. If number 7 is not playing quality football and is not healthy, they got no shot in you know what to do anything. It always rests on the quarterback. Just keep it simple, stupid. If Ben goes, they go.
That's right. I agree 100%. Can't disagree with that. It's a quarterback-driven league. You need a good quarterback. You need a quarterback to play well. All right, so Jeremiah says, who do you think will win the AFC North division this year? You kind of already said that. How do you see the rankings, all 4 teams, when all said and done? I think I know who your first. I know who your first and last are. I want to know who 2 and 3 are.
And we're not supposed to give props to Ravens players or to the Ravens, period. But big up to Ed Reed for dissing the Bungles and the Browns. It was classic. If you guys have not seen that,
I have not seen it yet.
Okay, the context of it, they were talking about he was giving props to his Miami Hurricane teammates. And he was saying,
hold on, is this in his acceptance speech?
Yes, that's in his acceptance speech.
Okay.
So you can go see it. So to diss the Bungles and the Browns in the acceptance speech, it is awesome. So this is in reference to his Miami teammates in terms of people saying that they were good enough to play NFL teams. And he was saying, no, I've been in this league, no disrespect to anybody, but nah, we weren't good enough to play against Bengals, to play against NFL teams. Then he said, well, maybe some of them Brown teams and maybe some of the Bungles teams.
Did he say Bungles?
No, he said Bengals. He said Bengals. He said maybe some of the Browns teams and maybe the Bengals teams. Then he said, no disrespect. It's great. You have to be great to play in this league. We couldn't have competed against those teams. Then he said, although, I did get 31 interceptions against the Browns and the Bengals. And everybody started laughing. So big up to Ed Reed. The first time I could say it, and he needed that. The funny thing about Ed Reed, watching him do it, is he should have had his head on a swivel looking for Hines Ward in the background because, Hines knocked Ed Reed out numerous times. So he should have been watching out, keeping his head on a swivel for Hines Ward. But here are my rankings. Bungles last, dead last. Bungles are a terrible team. Terrible roster, terrible team. New head coach, AJ Green out. They're going to suck.
Okay.
I'm going to put the Browns at 3.
Ooh. Okay.
A combustible quarterback. That's a me guy that likes to have his face out front. Odell Beckham, Freddie Kitchens, all of that is combustible. I think the Browns can be a dangerous team after this season when they get a year under their belt to kind of work this all together. There's a lot of moving parts there. I think the biggest issue for the Browns is Freddie Kitchens. You've got a new head coach who has to figure this out on the fly. You've head coached for years. I've been a head coach. That first time you're a head coach, it's spinning. It's moving fast. You have no idea how to do anything. You have an idea of how this all works, but you don't know how this all works. He will be a much better coach next year. He's going to struggle this year. I got to put the Ravens at number 2. I respect the Ravens' work. I don't like the Ravens. I put them at 2. Lamar Jackson, keeping him healthy is going to be the biggest issue. I think they have an excellent secondary. They're not as good in the trenches as they typically are. So I put them at 2. I think the Steelers are the class of the division. Best quarterback, best coach. I think they're the class of the division. I think the Steelers will win the division.
I agree. The Ravens, it's interesting because John Harbaugh says in an interview that they're going to run Lamar Jackson at least like 25 times a game.
Good luck.
Lamar Jackson says, we're not going to run me as much anymore. So whether they did that purposely or not, but the quarterback and the coach might want to be on the same page when it comes to how they're going to utilize him. If they run him 25 times a game, there's a guy named Robert Griffin III who's actually on that roster. Talk to him about what will happen to his career. It'll be very short-lived. So, yeah, I don't know. I could see it going either way. I think the Bengals are definitely the worst of the 4. and it's going to be close. The other three, I think the Steelers do win it. I think 11 wins could win it this year. I predicted the Steelers to have a 13-3 season. I'm super optimistic, and
I took 11-5,
you took
slightly
11 and
less.
5. So I said, okay, 10, 11 wins. I think could be good enough to win it. All right. We'll get a few more questions before we call it a show. Snowman puts $2 in the tip jar. How will the secondary do this year, in your opinion?
I think they'll be better than last year. I don't think they'll be an elite secondary. I think they'll be average to slightly above average. I think the addition of Nelson helps. You get a better cornerback on that opposite end. I mean, you're going to be better when Cody Sensabaugh is not starting. I mean, that's addition by subtraction, just in and of itself. So I think they'll be better from that perspective. But from the safety position, we need both safeties to make more plays. And I like what I'm reading when I'm read the comments from Edmonds that he feels really comfortable in this defense, and he has the ability now to play fast. And given that, and given his athletic ability, I think that's a good thing. So I'll say average to above average. But Jeff, what did you think about his comments about him having 2.1% body fat? Is that possible?
No, it's not.
Okay, I thought that was like.
Anytime a male individual gets around 6%, it is not a sustainable level of body fat percentage. You're talking about like the elite bodybuilders that have shed the body fat, and it's only going to last probably a maximum 24 to 48 hours, and that's when the body's going to start to slowly shut down. It's the same with the kid that got drafted by the Seahawks out of Ole Miss, DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
You might be 8%, and that's super lean, and you can live at 8%. You're going to be hungry all the time, and you're going to be exercising a ton. But 2%, no. Michael Jordan, when he would get down around 6% body fat, he would talk about how his feet would start to hurt because you forget about the fat cells that are in your joints that help cushion the joints, and his feet would really hurt. And so he would always try to stay between 8 and 10 because that was more comfortable. So
yeah, I'm at like a healthy probably 25. Like a healthy 17%. I like to fluctuate.
Listen, can the word healthy be used as an adjective in that sentence?
I like to fluctuate between like a 17.5, when the moon is up at sunset.
Yeah, well, I'm going to leave my body fat percentage out of it. This is a sports show. We'll talk about something else. Okay. Let's see here. Another question. What do you think about Cameron Sutton? It's interesting.
Ooh.
I wrote Cam Sutton. He's the cornerback.
Okay.
So there's Lance's answer.
Who? Like.
So we had talked about how we didn't really think Mike Hilton and Cam Sutton was a camp battle. And I still kind of believe that. But Cameron Sutton is playing some really good football so far. And again, talked with Chris Carter, who's been at the training camps. He's been there, seen it with his own eyes. He knows football. He said, Jeff, this guy is balling out right now to the point where you're going to have to find a way to get him on the field. That's what he said. I trust him. I trust him 100%. And so I wrote an article today about how Mike Hilton has been playing some safety in practice, and that's because they don't have good depth there. Sean Davis is out with the finger still. He had a dislocated finger. They've been keeping him out. And while that's nothing new, that Mike Hilton has played safety in training camp before, but at the same time, I'm thinking, shoot, this could be Cameron Sutton's way of finding his way onto the field, whether it's dime. You put Hilton in as like a pseudo safety. If they want to throw out the dollar defense again this year, there's your answer there. Just saying, Cam Sutton's playing well. He's playing good football.
I mean, I think you answered it. It's the solution is in sub-package football, where maybe they are more of a dime defense when they go to sub packages as opposed to a nickel defense. You don't put on a third safety in dime. You play four corners and two safeties. You keep you keep Sean Davis and you keep Edmonds on the field with four corners, as opposed to maybe putting a third safety on the field and you play four corners. And Sutton gets on the field in that alignment of the defense. So anytime you have corners playing well, it's a great thing. I mean, this is a passing league. The more good corners you can put out there, the better. What has he said to you, CC, if anything, about Artie Burns?
And not much about Artie. He mentioned a couple other guys. Some of the stuff he told me was kind of like, "Hey man, let's keep this on the down low for now." But he did say that Cameron Sutton's playing well. He said he liked what he saw out of Benny Snell Jr. so far. For those that are thinking about the rookie running back, that he's really acclimated himself to doing what an NFL running back's asked to do. That's catch the ball in the backfield, that's block, and that's also run. He said that
Let me give you one thing that the back must do: ball security.
Yes. Yes. Very good. Good point. He talked about the backup quarterbacks. I mentioned that earlier. And that was really it. We talked about some other stuff. Like I said, some source stuff that I am not going to say on the air just yet. Nonetheless, there you go. I think Jeremiah's question of who is my favorite football team, I mean, I don't know what you're doing, man. I mean, this is can you see my shirt? I mean, I don't know. We're a fan site. This is run by fans. I like the Steelers. If you're talking about college football, I don't follow college football. So there you go.
Yeah. I'm from Pittsburgh, so that answers the question.
Okay, so those of that contributed via super chat today, we appreciate it. Lance, do you have anything to add before we call it a show?
I don't know if I gave props to this player. I know I wanted to do it before, and we were talking about the rundown, but I wanted to send my condolences to the family of Cliff Branch. Cliff Branch, outstanding wide receiver of the Oakland Raiders. And this is a Steelers show, but you got to give props to guys who are great, props to your opponents that bring out the best in your football team. Watching those battles between Mel Blount and Cliff Branch, in the basement of my aunt's house, and just watching those battles, I mean, that made me a fan of this great game in the National Football League. Watching those battles between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the hated Oakland Raiders, I mean, that's what it was all about. That's why I'm a fan to this day. And Cliff Branch and Stabler to Branch, I mean, I hated that duo. I hated that duo. And the reason I hated that duo, because they were that damn good. And so I want to send my condolences out to Cliff Branch, a great, fantastic football player, and to the dreaded Raider Nation for the loss of a really good football player.
Yeah, condolences to their family and to Raiders fans everywhere. It's never easy. No way about it. So, like I said earlier, and Jeremiah's asking who your favorite team is. Now, Jeremiah must be new to the show. Anyways, make sure you check out BehindTheSteelCurtain.com for all your Pittsburgh Steelers news during the week. We're getting 10, 12 articles a day. That's podcasts. That's, everything. Film breakdowns. Got a good one on Sean Davis coming up this week, so make sure you check that out. Also, make sure you're listening to all of our podcasts. For once, now I can finally say that all of our podcasts are on YouTube. So if you want to go to YouTube, if you're a visual learner, search BTSC Steelers Radio, subscribe, hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up. We really appreciate all the support. But if you're someone that likes to listen to these on commutes or things of that nature, or maybe while you're doing housework, you can find us in any place you find your podcast. That's Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, wherever. Search Steelers or Behind the Steel Curtain. Subscribe so you don't miss any content. The lineup for this week is tomorrow night. Monday will be your Steelers hangover. Tuesday will be Dave Schofield's Stat Geek. Wednesday will be the Steelers.
He doesn't know. He had to write it all down. He doesn't
No,
know.
Wednesday will be my burning question. Thursday will be the Steelers preview. Friday, we will actually have our post game show because the Steelers play on Friday. So, Lance, I hope you're ready to watch some preseason football.
Hey, I'm glad you told me that because I didn't realize it was Friday. I'm gonna have to figure out how to watch that game.
It's on NFL Network live national.
Excellent.
So, and then Saturday, Lance will be on. He can talk about the game on Yeah, I Said It. We'll be back here next Sunday for another episode of The Standard is the Standard. So, Lance, why don't you kick us off today?
First of all, I want to apologize for anyone who was cutting their grass listening to this show, because you might hear something that will mess up your meticulous cutting design that you're putting on your yard. I know you guys are fancy with your John Deeres and all that stuff. You had these designs. So I want to apologize for that. But as always, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe.
Absolutely, Abe. We'll see you next week for another episode of The Standard is the Standard.